One of the most important things about your home is the foundation it's built on. As a homeowner, it can be overwhelming to think about repairing it. Let's check in with Bob Brown to make it a little less daunting.
Now it's time for Open House, sponsored by Pyramid Heating and Cooling.
For many homeowners out there, their foundation is like the surface of the moon. They have no idea what they're working with. And it's also one of the scariest things when someone comes to take a look at problems, and that as a consumer can lead to problems. And I want to solve that as best we can. And today we've got Bob Brown, the Dirt Whisperer, on here. Let's talk foundations. Thanks for coming on the show today, Bob.
You bet. Glad to be here.
Man, you know, like I was saying, I tell you what, it is scary out there for many homeowners when they see a crack or something in their foundation, or they got water coming through a wall. It is probably one of the most fear-based things that I see out there. And you've got some great solutions that I want to talk about today.
Right. Absolutely. You know, as a foundation repair contractor for 35 years, I've pretty much seen it all. And yeah, there's a lot of things that people should be aware of how the industry works.
Yeah. And, you know, it's one of those things that lately it seems like there's a lot of great new products coming out as well that are engineered solutions. And I think it's hard for a homeowner to navigate. What are some of your best tips for, as a homeowner, how do they navigate these issues?
Well, my first and most important tip is that if you start to see problems, call an independent foundation repair engineer. Don't call a contractor. Contractors are going to send out a salesperson who is going to get paid a commission for everything they find, you know, and what they find you know, is usually, you know, maybe some of it's valid, maybe some of it's not valid, right? But you don't really know unless you get an unbiased observer in there.
Man, I tell you what, and that's one of the things I've learned too. And a lot of companies out there, the bigger ones, they're part of a larger franchise network. So they have limited options that they can actually present to a homeowner, right? So they have system A, system B, whatever they're doing, and they're stuck within that box. And so, you know, for me, I was always recommending to people to, if you've got a foundation issue that seems to be concerning, get that structural engineer in there first.
Right. Or better yet, a geotechnical engineer.
There we go.
Because what you're dealing with is soil problems, and that's what geotechnical engineers specialize in. You know, I call the kind of the myopic solutions of the foundation repair industry, I call it the one-trick pony. Because a lot of times that's all they can do. They can offer just what their supplier gives them. And for example, they may not know anything about expansive clay heave. All they know is settlement, right? And products to fix settlement. And if it's an expansive clay heave problem, well, they don't have anything for it. And they don't want to address it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't understand it. They don't want to understand it. And that may be all it is.
Yeah, it seems in my experience out there, and I want to get yours here, that many times those cracks and stuff or issues, they always start out small, right? And if you can get on it early, it seems to be a better plan for you.
And that's correct. Problems do tend to get worse over time. Sometimes if it's a clay soil, you can go through a cyclical activity. The cracks can get wide and then go back skinny and wide and skinny. And so you have to make sure you understand the root of the problem before you start applying fixes to it.
That is great advice. And that's something that we have here too. We have a lot of clay soil, and our issue is we have in the Pacific Northwest where we're at here, we have those seasons. So we have the rainy season and the dry season. So
right.
It's a sponge, right? It gets nice and tight and small on the kitchen counter when it's dry, and then you get it wet and it explodes up.
That's right. And so you need to understand, and not only that, but there's lots of layers to soil, and they all act differently, and they all do different things. They react differently to water, which is why we have geotechnical engineers. They understand the complex nature of all of these layers and how they act together.
Yeah, and that's smart. And the other thing that I've seen too has been a common problem in my area, at least here, and for our viewing audience, is that those gutters dropping down right next to the foundation, especially in like 1920s, 1930 homes, that has caused a significant amount of water damage to those foundations and issues around there.
You know, you bring up a good point, and that is that oftentimes most of what needs to be fixed is grading and drainage. And if a house is experiencing severe problems, sometimes fixing grading and drainage can be all it really needs. And a lot of times you may not get those options from a foundation repair contractor.
Oh, yeah. And that's, again, that water, it just comes, and it doesn't matter where you're at in the country, right? Water can do damage even if you're down in Arizona where you're at, right?
Water does tremendous amount of damage in the Southwest areas. And if you think about it, that's one of the problems of heave in a drier climate. And even in the western parts of Washington and Oregon, where it's really dry, if you've got a house and it's been sitting on dry soil for a long time, and now you all of a sudden start adding water to it because of drainage conditions, now those clays who have been small and shrunk and dry for maybe hundreds of thousands of years now swell up, and that's where you start seeing this heave damage. And I've seen expansive clay heave houses 10, 12 inches and crack. It'll bend steel and crack concrete. Very powerful force.
What do you give for, what's the best course of action for people if they're dealing with heave? Is it just basically like we were talking about, go to that geotechnical engineer and have them start the process with you to figure out solutions?
For sure. And the solutions are way different, as I mentioned earlier. Putting a pier in doesn't solve it. You'll want to fix the drainage. You'll want to fix the grading. Those are the key things. I developed a patented system that dries out an existing foundation by running air through the ABC layer underneath the slab, and dries out those clays underneath. And that's one solution. But there are lots of solutions.
Man, we are running out of time, Bob. What is the best place for people to find information about you so they can help fix their foundations and get down the right path and, get the right information?
So I wrote a book. It's available on Amazon. It's only available on Kindle for about a month till the final books are printed later this month, or later in September, I guess. But you can find it on my website, foundationrepairsecrets.com. That's the best place to start.
Man, that is great. This is such a very hard thing for homeowners to navigate, and I'm happy to have experts like you out there that can really help people get that unbiased opinion on how to deal with it.